You should hide the octopus, or you should have a bird instead of the octopus.
That would be
Why?
nice.
Well, are we making a plushie?
That'd be cool.
We ha we have discussed making plushies, Sage. And we're live.
Boop, boop,
Woo!
boop.
Ooh, Sage is bringing up the gear.
Could you hear it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, mic drop moment. Thank you, Sage, for a lovely introduction to today's episode. Welcome, Baptiste. Welcome, Sage, to the Wagtail review.
Ooh,
Woo!
welcome.
And today we are discussing the latest updates on our project roadmap and anything else we feel like it, I suppose.
Is that
Have
how we
you?
roll?
That's definitely how we roll. Have you seen the new roadmap yet, Baptiste?
I haven't checked it today.
Okay. Any expectations? Any concerns? Any like hot topics?
I mean, I know that we've shipped autosave, so I feel like there's no more features to be had. So I'm very uh, like Wagtail is now perfect. So I really don't see what can be on the roadmap.
So that's the end game?
Yeah, I think so.
It's
Just
actually, you're
maintenance
joking.
mode.
You're joking, but in our recent discussions, there has been a regain in people saying that, oh yeah, we definitely have enough features now, and we should stop adding more, and we should instead focus on making what we have right now better, which I definitely like that sentiment. Am I giving a fair treatment to how this has been brought up, Sage, or is that too fluffy?
No, I think it's fair to say that we do have quite a lot of features already. The ones that you would expect from a CMS. And I would love to, make improvements to what we already have, like also maybe optimizing performance. Um, but there are still some features I think that would warrant some investment into our CMS to make it even better.
A few months ago, I did an accessibility audit of Wagtail, and it was for a standard named ATAG. As part of meeting that standard, you're encouraged to have documentation for all of your features, which is a pretty natural way to make them more accessible. So I had to quantify which features we have in Wagtail for CMS users. Do either of you want to hazard a guess? Like, how many features do we have in total in the end?
At least five.
How how do you define a feature?
I think the idea in my mind when I did this was something that probably warrants having a name and a paragraph in documentation. So, it's definitely subjective definition right there, but at least something that would warrant writing down and explaining a bit. So, like maybe, for example, being able to order a list of pages by a field. Maybe that's a feature. Maybe ordering like ascending and descending. Maybe that's not like to that degree of granularity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Take a
Have
guess. How many?
do we hit the realm of hundreds?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say triple digits, but not quadruple.
Yep.
Between 100 and 999.
I'll show you in the screen share. Uh, the current estimation is 148 across 19 different areas of the CMS. Um, but I do think this is undercounting by quite a bit. Like for example, table listing is a single feature in there. But anyway, for today, we want to talk about the next improvements, features or no. Um, we have just published the latest version of the roadmap. There is 11 things on there that we've either added or moved around a bit. And yeah, we thought it would be very interesting to go through them in order a bit, discuss what we all think of them. For people who might not know, um, we have four releases of Wagtail a year with like features and other like kind of major improvements. Not necessarily four major releases, but definitely four releases that we encourage people to upgrade to. And after each and every one of those releases, we try and update the roadmap with what we want to do in the next two releases after. Um, so we don't have like super um, long future commitments. But honestly, for a project of our size, it's already quite a lot to commit to the next 6 months worth of changes to the project. Um, I had a look actually earlier today at how well we're doing on our commitments, like expectations versus reality of what we ship. I thought Baptiste and Sage would both find this very interesting. This bar chart is over all of our releases over the years, how much we have committed to and shipped versus things we decided to skip. So the light blue things here, that's when we had items on the roadmap for a given release and then just didn't make it. Um, I find it really interesting to see the patterns over time. And I think right about Wagtail 6.0, I recall us having lots of discussions about wanting to commit to fewer things and having higher success rates. I see you smiling, Sage. Did we succeed?
Well, let's look at the numbers, I suppose.
Yeah, as a percentage, um, back then we were in the 70 to 90% success rates range, and now we're in the 70 to 90% success range. So I think what might have happened more than anything is just there's fewer items we skip because there's fewer items we commit to rather than necessarily us like hitting 100%. Um, we're at on average about six things we commit to in the roadmap, and then with that six, it's much simpler to meet 5 out of 6. Not have a situation where we only ship half or 2/3 of what we had committed to.
I think it's also worth noting that the items come in different shapes and sizes. Like, for example, autosave, that's quite a big one compared to, well, pretty sure we have some smaller ones in the roadmap as well, right?
Yep, there's something we started doing more recently on those sizes, not necessarily report as in like make it super visible, but at least keep track over time. So this view here is all our roadmap items are GitHub issues on the separate roadmap projects, and then it allows us to add metadata like our understanding of the size of those roadmap items. Lots of medium, but also definitely some that are very chunky and some that are very small, and not always necessarily the ones you'd expect, to be honest. Um, Wagtail Space, our flagship online conference last year, I don't think people realize how much work it is to put together a conference for almost 400 people. Even as only a 2-day event, that's a massive amount of work. What do you think, Baptiste? Do we have a good track record there?
Well, you said the T word. Um, I'm curious how many of the skipped feature were dropped versus just moved to maybe the next release, or is there data on that?
Yeah, there's definitely data. I don't know what would be the simplest way to see this um, on here, like in bulk mode. because we do like update all of the metadata. But then if you look at um, choosers UI improvements, as those are GitHub issues, you can clearly see when we move them around in milestones and project states. So this one, for example, we added to the future milestone in July as a new thing, and then we moved it to a specific release just yesterday. Things that are moving in the other way around. If we look at natural language search, we're very eager to have it in the next May release when we added this back in November, but now had to be more realistic and move it to the future bucket. I think aside from that, just unpacking a bit more how all of this works, we use our RFC system to share all of our updates to the roadmap, not just like how we intend to build specific features. And this RFC system, very recently we started putting this table that states for the past feature, what do we think is our assessment of what we've done or not done? And yeah, so for example, this Polish sites showcase, it's closed on the roadmap because we don't think it makes too much sense to have it on the roadmap anymore, even though it hasn't been completed. Why are we missing? Oh, I forgot to merge the latest set of roadmap updates, which definitely have enough review now and approvals from the core team for us to do this. Yeah, so in that set, it will similarly, oh, it will similarly show you that natural language search, we decided to move it to the future bucket and why we did that. Do you think it helps to share those sizes more widely to our Wagtail users? Or is it kind of like for our own benefit that we track this?
I think both. No,
Yeah.
you
Do you
you
care?
never really know. Like that's the magic of open source is that there's always someone that relies on some data that you sometimes you don't even realize that people have workflows or they rely on information you have, and if you have the data, putting it out there uh, is good. I think that's the one of the strengths of working in the open is that you don't really have to think. That's your process. You publish it, and people can rely on it or not. I think most users don't care, is my guess, but some probably do.
Seems fair. Yeah, for the people who do care, we love the feedback. I want to stress. Definitely the reason we added this is because people said, oh, it would be nice to know, have a sense. Recently, we also started adding images to all of our roadmap items, or whenever possible, to try and illustrate them a bit better for people who, um, make it easier for them to understand what is going on. Anyway, let's look at the next release, shall we? Sage, do you have preference of which item we start with?
Well, we just discussed, or rather mentioned, autosave. So why is it still in the roadmap?
Tell us more, Sage. Why is it on the roadmap?
Yeah. So I think previously we had it on the roadmap as autosave MVP for the previous release that we just shipped, and now that the MVP has shipped, it is. It works pretty well. Yeah, I would say. But there are some enhancements in the UI UX side, I think, that would make the experience better. For example, our divert validation feature. Well, it's still it at the moment it doesn't support string fields. So if you add new blocks, and it has a required text field, for example, you'll be greeted with a validation error. And that's one of the things that we'd like to address in the next release, so that as you add more blocks while editing the page, autosave can still continue without you having to fill out those required text blocks. And some other small polish around the UI, like making sure there's no layout shifts in the autosave indicator in the header, for example. But yeah, I'm sure there are a bunch of other enhancements we can make as we also gather feedback from users who have upgraded to the current latest version.
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely noticed while using autosave myself, first off, how nice it is and how much time it saves me. Like it's just one less thing to worry about as I walk on my page. But also how much more the error handling of it matters, because if I start to rely on it working on its own in the background, then I just notice way more when it stops working. Whereas, if it's like I click a button and something breaks, then like first off, I think that's much rarer for it to break in that situation, but also like I'll know to take action right away. Um, with the autosave version, it kind of takes you a bit out of the flow that you have to worry about why there's an error. So much important for us to handle it gracefully, and yeah, skipping those required fields, letting people get to them in their own time. That feels really really helpful in that respect. Um, Baptiste, I don't know if you had a chance to use autosave just yet.
Not yet, no.
Okay.
I haven't worked on a project with a new enough Wagtail.
Yeah. Um, yeah, definitely, diffusion of those features is a really big deal for us. Um, Another tangent that I could show you, aside from this graph of roadmap items, is our understanding of how much people download or upgrade to the new releases, which it's really important for us if we ship features that people do take the time to upgrade their sites to use them. Um, and here you can definitely tell that at the point where we make a new release, only about 50% of our downloads are for the previous latest release. So there's definitely lots of people that have taken the time to upgrade to latest in the last release cycle, but just as many people who might be one, two, three versions behind. So really, really useful, I think, to have those numbers in mind. Um, Not that it's necessarily a problem for people to be behind so much, but for us it's important, I think, to move our ecosystem forward, encourage people to make those upgrades as a matter of security and just user experience for their CMS users. Um, I think there's a few items on there we could cover pretty fast, so I'll give that a go. Independent security audits. We've been looking to do this for a long time, and we have a few plans now that could make this way more achievable, just like by virtue of having more of a relationship with Wagtail users that could be able to provide this, or more awareness of which organizations might provide those kinds of services. Um, the main hurdle there is just the nature of Wagtail as a code base, how flexible it is. Most audits in this space, they're focused on penetration testing, where you look at a live application and you try and break that or find vulnerabilities in that. That can be configured in many different ways. It's a bit trickier to decide whether you want your audit based on the code in the abstract or on a specific implementation of a project. So that's why it's taken a bit of time. Um, if we were to look at the metadata for this, I think we'd see it move around a bit. Oh no, just future to 7.4. Yeah, we discussed it sooner, but we hadn't committed to it just yet. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Security is definitely something that people value a lot in Wagtail, and that we also value a lot. And I think having this audit is going to give us even more confidence that we're on the right track. Baptiste, where do we go next?
Of course, the first one.
Customizable page explorer.
I I noticed there's a spelling mistake.
What do you mean?
Well, aren't we using British English?
We've actually switched to American English as of like about a year ago now.
That was a poor.
It was a matter of, I think, just meeting most of our contributors. We actually have way more contributors that speak American English than British. So it felt much simpler to meet people where they are in terms of their writing that way. But yeah, I mean, if you make an RFC, maybe we can change it back.
I was being very disingenuous, as is typical. As someone whose English is not my first language, mostly write American English, but I work at a UK company, and yeah, I think at this point my brain is fried. I never know if I should use an S or a Z or a Z or whatever it is.
Definitely a Z or a Z. Never know either. Sage, is it Z or Z?
For British, I think it's Z.
Did you ask about this item just because of the meme, Baptiste, or did you actually want to know what it
No,
involves?
I'm interested because I have worked on a few customizations where this is something I would really have wanted. I have had to make a lot more, write a lot more code than I was hoping to make some customizable or customized page choosers or page chooser adjacent things.
Yep, yep, definitely a common hurdle. Um, right now, we have to encourage people to create custom views way more than we'd like, I think. Um, Part of the reason for that is Sage right here spent a lot of time making custom views, listing views so much more powerful and customizable. And now our page explorer is lagging behind a bit compared to this. Um, why did we decide to do it this way, Sage? Just like it made more sense back then?
I think it's just for pages you can't rely on certain fields being available on specific page types, so you have to be careful in supporting those scenarios. But also, in the first place, we've never had hooks to or like customization points to in the page explorer, whereas for snippets and arbitrary models, you can specify what things you want to register along with the model. Um, but yeah, for pages, it's mostly you just create the page type model and it's already set up for you as part of the overall page things like Explorer and Editor and stuff.
Yep. It's really hard sometimes to make those kinds of choices. Um, I think, it's very easy for us to have a good sense of what to improve in Wagtail, but then in what order to do it to get the best bug is another matter altogether. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to see this happen. There's something we haven't mentioned here just yet, which is that this upcoming version is marked as a long-term support version. So we tried to adjust our roadmap a bit accordingly and focus on things that I think would um, unlock customizations that are quite powerful for sites. The idea being, if you create a package in the Wagtail ecosystem, for example, that customizes the page explorer, um, ideally you would be able to support both people who you prefer long-term support versions and recent versions. So having those features in at the right time is going to really help for the next 6 to 12 months, people who have to make those decisions of what versions to support. Um, when we released our Wagtail AI package a few months ago now, we shipped a 3.0 version of the package that had lots of new features. And it was really tricky to decide whether or not to support long-term support versions of Wagtail because of the fact that in terms of capabilities, we had made some changes in core that would make this package much easier to maintain and just much more, powerful. So it's a really concrete and important aspect of how we manage our releases, deciding which features to ship in which ones. I don't know, when we work on Django projects, Django packages, do we always try and support latest long-term support and the latest, or what do you two do? Do you do LTS plus latest or just latest when you make a new package?
I think it's usually what's still supported by Django itself. So that would be LTS and current latest. But maybe if the current latest is LTS, then also the previous version. But yeah, whatever the versions that are still supported by Django are.
I just write the code for the latest, and then I add other versions in CI and see if it breaks. And if it's supported, I just mark support. And if it doesn't work, then just say, well, update to latest. But it really depends on the complexity of, like, if you write a library that, sometimes you integrate deeply with Django and then or Wagtail, and then it's very hard to have compatibility with multiple versions. And sometimes you're so additive that it's very easy to support things. So,
Yeah,
but I think as a policy, supporting whatever you're integrating with, so be Django or Wagtail, like having this aligning on their supported version makes the most sense.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Um, I was showing you earlier our graph of how many downloads we get of the latest version at the point of us publishing a new release, and I did a similar graph of Django versions. I think that's like 6 to 12 months ago now, or at least Django version downloads. Sorry, and yeah. So at that time, Django 5.1 was the latest. 5.0, one version older. 4.2 was the most recent long-term support, and you could really see there like the proportion of long-term support downloads for Django is almost as high as the proportion of people on the latest version. So it really makes a big difference if you want to maximize adoption of your package by other people, what you choose there. Yeah, even 3.2 LTS. When was that? It was a while ago now. Oh, time flies. Yeah, if you're in one of those versions at the very bottom here, it is time to move on. But anything above 3.2 LTS, I guess, can give you a pass for now. Um, which one next, Sage? Have you started working on some of these already?
That's a good question. I have been working on the autosave UX enhancements,
Yeah.
but we already talked about it. What's with the content quality checker enhancements? What's in there? I see that it has the AI label.
My little AI label. Yeah, we added that recently. We do have a fair few items with that label in recent past. Yes, so it's a direct follow-up to our um, last releases worth of updates to the Wagtail AI package. We worked on new concepts for AI assistants inside the CMS. The idea being we want to be experimenting with AI features a bit more. Definitely doing that outside of the core package because we have no interest in forcing AI features on anyone. So for people who want to use those types of features, they install the package, and then we try and encourage them to focus on assistance in their content writing rather than the writing itself. So this content quality checker, the idea is to provide feedback on your content with and without AI. The checker that we have currently in Wagtail, it's based on very deterministic AI-free checks, and that's really useful in a lot of cases. They're very reproducible, they're very fast to run, but they are quite limited on what they're able to check. So I'm hoping we'll be able to add a much wider array of checks that some of which will rely on AI. I think the best example I could provide is alternative text of images. We have a built-in check for alternative texts just to make sure it's not complete gibberish like a file name. But we can't really tell you whether your alternative text is decent or no. And on the contrary, that's something that AI is really good at. So, of course, having the AI write the alt text, some people really like that. But having the AI provide the feedback, I think, is equally as valuable for sites that might already have people that are really happy to write alt text and just want that extra nudge to make it better. Opportunity for SEO checks as well. You know, there are lots of projects using Wagtail where how pages are perceived in search engines, that's really crucial to the success of normalization. So having the ability for your CMS to give you feedback on that is really, really quite important to them. And something I really like to do as well is introducing checks for people who care about the carbon footprint of their website. Don't know how much our audience might know about this, but you know, it's really simple. The more you bloat the page with videos, tons of images, carousels, the longer it takes to load in the browser, the more energy it takes to render the page, get it over the network. And for people who really care about their site meeting quite strict environmental criteria, I think having checks in the CMS will help their CMS users, encourage them to have leaner content, fewer embeds, fewer images. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Linting, but for a CMS user, I think is my pitch. And do you want AI in your linting? I think it's totally nice for my linting to be AI free, but like when my linter points out issues with my code, maybe I can have a button for my AI to fix it as well. Have you tried that much?
I mean, usually linters have auto fix options, right?
Yeah,
Except for those that it cannot automatically fix.
yeah. I don't know what the proportion is, but do you think it's more than 50% of linting rules have auto fixing or less than 50%?
Depending on which rules you enable, I suppose. But
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know.
Do you use much linting, Baptiste?
In the code, yeah, but I like my linters to be deterministic. I can see the benefit of an AI checker, but I don't know that I would call it a linter. Just due to the non-deterministic nature.
Yeah.
So I much prefer, yeah, deterministic linters. I like linters. I get annoyed sometimes, contribute to a new code base and yeah, pre-commit, and then there's tons of things that happened. But linters are, yeah, great tool for delivery, like having some kind of standard across a wide range. So project based, you have your linter, your auto formatters, use Black or whatever for Python, format your JS in certain way. And I don't have much experience in content editing a website from like the editor's perspective, but I know that websites like to have maybe a voice or some kind of standard of themes, like US versus UK spelling.
Yeah.
If you can have an AI checker to tell you, yeah, you should be using UK spelling across your whole website, that I can see the value in that.
Yeah. For so we use Wagtail for our user guide for CMS users, and we use the Wagtail AI package. And I recently produced a style guide for the project so that we can document for our editors of the site what to expect, and also so that this AI checker can help automate those types of checks. Um, so yeah, definitely the spelling of words, but there's a ton of things on there, tons of aspects of how you want to write. That's like you could imagine if you were to do your own linting in your head without any tools, how much fun that would be. Um, and as far as the things that are on there, I definitely think quite few of them we can write deterministic checks for, just because of the nature of a language. Um, so yeah, the idea here with those enhancements in the latest release, we added support for custom checks of any type. So basically making this better to encourage much more writing of custom checks that are deterministic, but also leaving room for the AI non-deterministic version of those checks. I hope to give you a demo of this at some point in the future. I think it's quite interesting. Um, Also quite like it because we've designed this really heavily for humans to stay in a loop, stay in control of when this feedback is generated, exactly how much AI they want in their editing tasks. Um, yeah, hope we found the right balance.
Yeah, what I wanted to say also is that linter on its own, for me, you also need to have a way to see exactly what the linter changed, if it's auto-fix some things, or have like, I don't want something to be fixed without me being able to clearly see what has been changed
Yep.
from the work I've done. And so I think having linters or checkers also need to go hand in hand with having a good way to visualize. Like for code, it would typically be a diff, but I don't know if there's.
Yep. We have been working on this a lot lately with our UI team. Um, Lawrence here, who has the coolest username ever in GitHub, has been reviewing other CMS's content comparison interfaces, which are like, this is WordPress, definitely um, diff based. This is Drupal's. Because yeah, like super crucial that if you use those kinds of automations, you're really, really clear on what exactly has changed when. And our current interface for content comparison, like it's good, but certainly could be much better. Um, in the context of AI, we created new designs for those kinds of like before after comparisons. But I'd really like us to be able to provide this as a generic UI component in Wagtail. So you can use this for any scenario where you want to compare two versions, like for example, translations, being able to compare the source and the translated version, maybe comparing multiple versions of the source and the translation. That's really helpful to those workflows. Yeah, whenever I wanna mess with Sage, I show him this side by side preview panel to
All the
see how.
panels.
How does this make you feel, Sage?
Mixed feelings about it.
Yeah,
I think in this case it could make sense because you it does make it easier to compare between the two states. But also if you don't have the well, if you don't have enough uh, state for your screen, then it can look very busy.
yeah, yeah. Still trying to find our direction with this. I'm not saying we're not necessarily going to build this. This is just a list of all of our concepts. Um, yeah, I quite like in that respect that our main editing interface to the left here is definitely not meant to be WYSIWYG, because situations like this, they force you to be aware that there's lots of different versions of your content you might want to look at. You don't necessarily want to edit it in situ. It'll be very hard to compare with another version. Anyway,
The way I do it is that
Mathis.
I open one version in one tab, the other version in the next tab, and I just control tab really fast and see what pops up.
That's a
Makes it a
good
bit
technique.
trickier when you have to scroll, but then I just scroll by units, like using the spacebar, and hopefully that works.
Oh, how much does a spacebar press scroll by? Do you know?
No idea, but it's a fixed amount.
Interesting. I had never thought of it that way. I'll keep that trick. Thank you.
I usually manually scroll until it aligns just right, well, but not exactly, so it still shifts a bit.
Yeah, GitHub has a nice. I love the diffing feature for images where you can like slide the slider and it shows you the before after.
Do you think we should have that in Wagtail?
It makes a lot of sense for images. For text-based content, I don't know. It's really like that's the hard part, right? When you write a framework or like a CMS, is that content can be so many things. Sometimes it's the visual layout of the content that you want to check. Sometimes it's the text itself, where like a programmer style diff makes a lot of sense, but programmer style diffs really break down in a lot of situations where they don't make sense for normal humans, let's say. It's for sure a hard problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely nice when there are low tech solutions available, like as you said, flicking back and forth. I think, wanna make sure people use those, but also for people who want something more integrated, that there's a good default. Okay.
Search.
Search. Yes. Our colleague Matthew, who's on holidays today, would be best placed to talk about this. This is super simple. We have search backends we've had in Wagtail for a while that we're very, very proud of, uh, but could definitely use some improvements. And there was a bit of technical debt there. We've decided to move those search backends, or I guess the whole search implementation, to a separate package that supports arbitrary Django projects moving forward. And we hope that will help with maintenance. And we hope that will help also adding more capabilities to those search features now that they're outside. Um, I think we have 3 specific improvements lined up, but one of them, I don't know how close or far we might be from it. Um, Search permission handling, feeling a bit rough on what it means. Sage is the idea that the permissions will be considered as part of indexing.
I'm not sure if it's as part of the indexing. I think it might be more about the searching.
Yeah.
Because yeah, the backends may not be something that's actually connected to the, uh, you know, with a database backend, it uses Django's ORM under the hood, so maybe you could fit the permission checks in there as well. But if you're using something like Elasticsearch, then you might have to rethink how the permission should be handled.
Yep. I
I've worked on
think.
multiple projects where there was a need from the client of being able to surface restricted pages in the search. And that is like on a technical level is quite hard to implement because Wagtail has different ways of specifying page restrictions and accommodating all of them mixed with search. It's quite tricky, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily like it's not only a technically hard problem, but also in the way people actually use page restrictions in different ways can be hard to make sense of what happens. Like if you have a page that's restricted with a password, how do you want it to be handled when people are searching? On one project, people wanted the search results to be displayed but marked as locked if they were locked behind a password. But that reveals that, for example, the title of the page or whatever you've used in a search preview. On some pages, people wanted to say that, well, if the user that's currently searching has access to those pages, then those pages should show up in the results. Um,
Yeah.
but that's also quite hard to implement. So there's some stuff there that I think a lot of projects hit. Uh,
Yeah. And both options seem pretty valid to me at face value. I could see why you definitely want sometimes one, sometimes the other.
yeah, it depends the meaning you put behind restricting pages. Sometimes it's kind of like a soft restriction. Sometimes it's like super private information, and so Wagtail cannot know what you mean by when you restrict a page. So having a one size fits all solution is quite hard. But maybe
Yeah.
the solution is giving the tools.
Yeah. I um I think we'll move on in the interest of time, but I definitely know a big goal here is more flexibility and, for example, support from better support for as many search indexes as you want on the sites. So you could potentially have, yeah, very different behavior across different audiences. Um, okay, yeah. Let's cover a couple more if we can. Page editor UX, Sage, and I have been preparing for this. And there's really only one thing that I would like us to mention, which is the biggest UX improvements we've been dreaming up for years. Has it been years already, Sage?
Well,
Maybe months.
I think the idea has floated around for years, but this issue hasn't been around for a year, almost.
Yeah, I didn't dare to even open it until a few months ago. Um, Baptiste, I don't know how you feel about this, but when you're inside your favorite CMS, which is definitely Wagtail, right? Um,
Yes. I actually, well, maybe it's too late, but you can vote in the CMS Critics Award for your favorite
oh,
CMS.
it is not too late actually. This is the last day today. Um, I'll say a bit more about this before we move on because it's definitely timely. This is the very last day to vote for us. We have been nominated in two categories. Um, we do not win anything tangible whatsoever with this. It's literally just bragging rights and arbitrary internet fame. Um, Oh no, Baptiste. It's too late. Well, I'm glad we checked. Um, yeah, we'll see if we win the bragging rights and the internet fame, I suppose. Did you vote, Baptiste?
Of course, I even created tons of fake accounts to be able to vote multiple times.
No, don't say that. You're gonna get us in trouble if you say
I
that
did,
on
I,
record.
I did not do that. You should not
Okay.
be doing this. This is
I'll
against the law.
I don't know if it's against the law, but definitely against
The Wagtail
the
law.
the Wagtail law. Um,
What's
yes.
this?
So yes,
Content preview.
this UX improvement. Um, you spend a lot of time sometimes searching where on the page to edit a given page because it's easy to look at the content as it is rendered for CMS for site users, but then doesn't necessarily mean it's simple to find in the form where the fields are. So we really like to make it easier for people to move from a given part of the rendered page to the corresponding editing interface. So here, I think the idea would be that you could click this heading in the preview and go to the heading in the rich text editor. Is that what we have in mind, Sage?
Yeah, something like that, or maybe also the other way around. I'm not sure if that would make sense, but um, yeah, basically, better way to find your way around based on the rendered content and the form fields, so that you don't have to scroll them both separately, trying to find where it is. Because where the field is displayed in the admin and where it's rendered may be different depending on how you structure your templates.
Yeah. And if I start typing here at the very bottom, um, it would certainly be nice if it was a bit easier for me to see what I'm typing in the preview at the same time. So maybe some amount of synchronized scrolling where um, you can always see the results of what you're editing to the right.
I think
Yeah.
if I were to have something like that, I would like to have it toggleable. Like if
Oh
I,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It could be very distracting if you want to focus on your editing. Although I suppose you could also just close the preview.
No, not just the fact that it could be distracting, but let's say you want to see how it would affect the length of the page, and you have it, you have the preview looking at a different thing, and then you're typing. You don't care about the exact changes where it's made, but you want to see how it affects other parts of the page.
I see. That makes sense. Yeah, and the rub here is this is super hard. Well, I guess this is super hard specifically because one of our fundamental design choices for Wagtail is to leave the look and feel, the front end of the site completely up to every site implementer. We don't have much control over how they render this, like visually, but also behind the scenes, how the HTML is created. So we have to find ways to connect the CMS form and the displayed content that are compatible with however people wish to display their sites. We're gonna make it, Sage. Do we have a solution?
I think we have some tricks up our sleeves, but
Whoa.
nothing concrete just yet. We're still experimenting.
Yeah, but it'll be very interesting at some point to do a deep dive on this feature and see how you, as someone who I think has quite a good taste for, Django, idiosyncratic code, idiomatic APIs in Django, how we do it.
I
What
have a
you
lot of taste for idiotic APIs. Idiomatic, I'm not so sure, but I have seen a lot.
you have seen a lot. Yeah, Sage and I, when we have design discussions like this, we discuss the cursed factor of a given solution. But maybe Baptiste, you have opinions about this too.
I mean, when you describe the feature, it sounds amazing, and then I'm immediately thinking of how hard it sounds. And so I found this very interesting, but it's probably way too much for this. for today's episode anyway. But yeah, it sounds like a very interesting technical challenge because you can immediately, I think, see the benefit for a user. Uh, but then when you start thinking about how you would actually implement, it sounds, I mean, to me, it sounds impossible, but there are much smarter people than me on this call who I'm sure have thought about this problem a lot more.
We're
Yeah.
also hoping maybe someday browsers can just support this out of the box with a nice API.
Oh,
So
yes.
Uh,
Let's end the call on that, the nice API that we all wish for. It's called scroll to text fragment.
yep.
Don't know if you spent much time looking at this new browser feature.
yes, the
Patis.
Django website uses it.
Ah, see? What
I
for?
don't for search.
Ooh, can we try it now?
Yeah.
Can I search for what could I search for?
JSON field.
Oh, Sage. So if I click here, it's gonna generate a link straight to the. Ooh, look at that.
Wow.
I mean, JSON fields are cool, Sage, but this might just, yeah, super helpful. And the only problem with this browser feature, this selecting by text, is right now it's only it's tied to this kind of um, I guess navigating to an anchor style in the browser bar with the highlights. Like the UI and the capability under it are very, very tightly integrated. So on
Like, for
a lot
example, I
of
think the only way to remove it is for you to right click on it and choose remove highlight.
remove
You
highlights.
can also edit the URL by hand. That's a great UI.
Very friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how it could be a solution, but it has the fatal flaw of if there's the same piece of text twice on your page, it's just going to go to the first one.
Yep. Yep. We have some ideas for like which heuristics we could use, like having multiple solutions to select or text on the page, go through them in order, and
I
I
mean,
think
the
it's a
obvious solution is that Wagtail should just replace the text by HTML, where every single character has its own ID, and then you can scroll to an ID this way. It would probably multiply the size of the preview page by, I don't know, a good 10, 20.
yeah. Some of our ideas are like that. See, you're plenty clever enough, Baptiste. We just have an edge because of the time we've spent thinking about it. Um, but yeah, we'll have to stop here today just because of time. And maybe we can pencil this as a future discussion topic. It'll be very interesting to see what others like you think of our concepts for this. Technical concepts, I mean.
You know where to find me.
Well, thanks for joining today. And Sage, you do an outro these days with your musical
No,
prowess, or
it's no. I don't think I don't think other podcasts do outros, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to do. I'll have to find an example.
great. Well,
Sage's guitar only plays forward, not backward, so he can only
Exactly.
do intros, not outros.
but thank you both. It's been fun. Talk soon.
Thanks.